All to the third unit of International Marketing, Block 1, Institutional Framework. Before you proceed for the Unit 3, let me discuss something which already we have discussed in the Unit 2. Before any company enter to the international business, international marketing, they have to understand the international trade. International trade, that is, gives benefit to many stakeholders. Government is also encouraging for international trade because government is getting a lot of revenue in terms of taxes on duties. Also the consumer is getting benefit because consumer is the standard of living of the consumer has improved because of the international trade. Also the meantime also there is when you are going for the international trade, that is also you have to think about what are the consequences, what are the problems. The problems lies with the international company has to understand the political scenario, the economic scenario, and also the political instability in any country. That is as a major concern because you know better about the recent happenings across the globe. So that is politically, that is exactly all countries they wanted to remain isolated and conservative. So any foreign country is going there, they have to also feel the pressure. So that is why the international, before you international go for the international trade, you have to understand the political scenario and the economic scenario. Then we talked about what is dynamics of international trade. We talked about the principles underlying the marketing, international marketing, the customer value, customer perceptions. That is somebody has to understand because you have to have your own understanding about the markets. Then you have to allocate resources. Then exactly you have to think about what is the customer requirements, customer preference. So once you understand the customer preference, accordingly you can design. So that is exactly you have talked about the resources, the opportunities, and the offerings has to be a right alignment. If there is no alignment between the three, then exactly the companies cannot get the competitive advantage. So that we talk about the in case of the international framework. Then we talk about the different approaches for entering to the international market. What are the approaches? We talk about the orientations, ethocentric orientations, polycentric orientation, geocentric orientation, and regiocentric orientation. In case of ethocentric orientation, what happens? So you consider that is your market and the outside market or the abroad, the international market, there is no difference lies between the two. So that is why you have the same similar kind of strategy you would like to adopt when you are going for the international marketing. So that is in case of your ethocentric approach. But in case of your polycentric approach, you are talking about that the countries are altogether different from each other. They are unique in their approach. Unique in their approach. That is why you have a unique strategy for each country. That exactly is for that exactly talk about. This is known as the polycentric approach, polycentric orientation also. The third one you talk about the regiocentric orientation, where we talk about on the basis of the specific region, your strategy will be on the basis of the specific regions. So just you talk about the South Asian regions, that is India, Pakistan, China, they comes under one region. So your strategy will be on the basis of the regions so that you will be successful on that particular regions. Next one we talk about next one we talk about the geocentric approach. You have a standardized or common approach because you consider the market is similar. The market is a common market. There is no difference lies between the markets. So you would like to have your common strategy or single strategy that will applicable for all the countries. This is exactly we talk about the different orientations. Then we talk about the what are the different modes of entry. The modes of entry we talk about, there are different modes of entry. One is your export, licensing, franchising, your overseas productions, joint ventures, turnkey projects, merger and acquisitions, and fully owned subsidiaries. So each mode of entry has its unique or its own advantage and disadvantages. So keeping in mind your requirements, keeping in mind your capacity, resources and capability, you think about which one is the best one. But beside that also we have talked about that is the from the above what modes of entry, the best way of entering to the market is exactly what now is your franchising or joint venture. These are the best way to enter into the other market because the risks which we are talking about, the risks, country risks, currency risks, that can be minimized when you have a partner. So when you have a partner, when you have somebody collaborating with somebody in the local market, then exactly what happens, your risk can be minimized. That is why companies prefer to go for go for franchising mode or joint ventures. And if you have sufficient capacity for investments, then you go for the merger and acquisitions, or you are going for the what you are going for the overseas productions. So that is already we have talked about that. But that is exactly what is all about the international marketing, that we talk about the conceptual framework. But the institutions which are there to support international trade, that is your discussion for today's session. The institutional framework established around the globe in order to ensure international business. So what happens now, like the international trade is what now, like it is there to promote or to facilitate the the movement of goods and between the different countries, or the trade between the different countries, that can be possible through the institutional framework. That is to ensure international business. The institutional frameworks are there. The major complexity, what when we are talking about the what institutional framework, what are the major complexity? The major complexity exactly is with what political economic condition of the country, political and economic condition of the country. That is, you have to have a right balance. If I do not see any kind of growth, any kind of development, being a part of the group or being a part of the any establishment, why should I show my interest? That is why what the institutions are there to have to bring that is uniform policy, to bring a amicable policy, or that is exactly acceptable by each and every country. That kind of policy they bring to make the things more easier or free flow of goods and encourage as well as promote the business between the different countries. That is why there are different institutions are there who is have the role to facilitate the business trade between the different countries. Then we talk about the international framework adopted by various nations to promote. Already we talked about that the institutional framework for international business with all institutions and organs help countries economic growth, and also meantime they are also help in preparing the national policies that make economies more competitive. Because in the beginning of these discussions in the unit 1 already you are talking about when you are going for the international business or international marketing or international trade, there is exactly the government is also facilitating, government is also encouraging. Because why? Because it promotes or encourages competition within the company, so that exactly who will benefit from get benefit of that, the end users or the consumers will get benefit of that. That is why we are going for the what now we are going for the what is the that is international trade. So already we talked about that is we will be discussing all the things, what are the institutions are there and how what is their role, how they are regulating or they are formulating policies for the betterment of trade between the different countries. That is the discussion of the class. So let us talk about the first. Let us talk about GATT, General Agreement for Trade and Tariff. That is established when 1947 with the objective of 20, was formed by 23 countries in the year 1947 with the objective to economic recovery after the World War II. World War II, you know the situations, the total, the economically we have got the shock after the World War II. That is why every country wanted to recover from that shock. So that is why the General Agreement of Trade and Tariff came into picture in the 1947 along with 22 countries. What is the objective? The GATT is exactly international business ensure sustainability of economic development. What exactly? Sustainability of economic development and building relationship with the countries. What is the objective? The GATT is responsible to have a sustainable economic development and building relationship among the countries. And that is what we talk about the World Trade Organization and GATT, General Agreement of Trade and Tariff, are both play a vital role for economic sustainability, economic development and building relationship among the countries. Then we talk about the prior to WTO World Organ, GATT was formed with 23 countries. Already we talk about that. The objective of the GATT was to trade without discriminations. No discrimination between the countries. The developing countries, developed countries, underdeveloped countries, no discrimination between the country. That is, all signatory members of the GATT would be treated as equal. So that is one of the objectives. Second one is it was created to outline rules to policies. Already I talk about the institutions who are they usually frame the policy for the international trade or international business. So what is that now? That is why General Agreement of Trade and Tariff is responsible to outline rules for ending the protectionist period by eliminating quantitative trade barriers. The agreement provided arbitrage system for resolving commercial disputes among the nations and frame a multilateral negotiation. This is about the objective of General Agreement and Trade and Tariff. General Agreement of Trade and Tariff, that are all are the objectives. So that is we talk about the next what is the principles of General Agreement of Trade and Tariff. All trade problems will be addressed through consultations by the member countries. Whom? By the member countries. The consultation between the member countries, the problems or the disputes between the different countries can be resolved among the countries. Negotiation based framework, it also provides a negotiation based framework. Legal instruments were developed based on the negotiations. Ensure the member countries should use tariff barriers for protection of the domestic industries. What happened? That is exactly ensure that member countries should only use tariff barriers for protection of their only what is tariff? Tariff barrier is only will be there to protection their own industry. That is the next one. Then non-discriminatory approach was adopted for trade among the member nations. No discrimination, already we talked about that. No discrimination between the countries, that was the major objective of GATT, where the policies, the frameworks, whatever they will be bringing or they will amend, that will be the betterment of the countries. No discrimination will be there between the countries. That was the main objective of our principle of GATT. Done. So later on what happens? GATT replaced by the World Trade Organization. Because why? The GATT was only dealing with General Agreement for Trade and Tariff was only dealing with goods. So where the services part was ignored by them. It was not included in the GATT agreement. That is why WTO came into picture. WTO, the World Trade Organization, came into picture, which includes goods, services as well as intellectual properties. That is what exactly the objective of World Trade Organization to manage three things exactly. One is goods, second one is services, third one is your intellectual property. That is why got replaced by World Trade Organizations. So what about the structure of WTO, World Trade Organizations? World Trade Organizations was established in the year 1995. 1995 it was established with a member of 160 members. 164 members account for 90% of the world trade. 90% of the world trade, 25 countries, WTO negotiating members. It is started in the year 1995. All decisions are taken by the members based on the consciousness top level decisions making body of WTO is a ministerial conference that meets every 2 years. That was the structure of WTO, World Trade Organizations. Then we talk about that is the first meeting. The headquarter of WTO is where? It is Geneva. For the trade related negotiations, GATT only deals with goods, but WTO deals with goods, services, and intellectual property. What are the mission? The mission of the GATT is the WTO mission is to improve welfare of the people of the members of the countries. Welfare by reducing the trade barriers, developing a negotiation platform of trade. The main mission is ensure smooth and free flow of goods between the countries. Ensure free flow of goods between the countries, safeguarding the fundamental principle of strong multilateral trading system. Safeguard the fundamental principle of each country, so that no country will suffer if as far as the WTO regulations or policy are concerned. No country will suffer because its mission is to ensure free flow of goods and services between the countries and safeguarding the protection fundamental principle of ensuring a strong multilateral trading systems. This is we talk about the mission of WTO. What are the functions? That is the what are the principle of WTO? The principle of WTO is non-discriminations, fair competitions, transparency, inclusion, and partnership. These are the 4 principles under which WTO works: is non-discriminations, fair competitions, transparency, and inclusion and partnership. This is all about the 3 principles of WTO. When you talk about the functions of WTO, what are the functions? Supervise, manage the implementation, administrations, and operation of the trade agreements. That is exactly, they manage all the trade agreements between the member nations. Trade negotiation, dispute settlement. There is always a dispute between the countries as far as their that is the trade is concerned. There is a trade dispute is there. That is exactly, it acts as a forum for trade negotiation and dispute settlement. Reviews national trade policies of member nations. It depends. It also reviews the national policy of member nations in order to ensure transparency among the member nations to surveillance in global economic policy making. Provide technical cooperation, training to the developing, at least developed and low income countries to build trade capacity and in transition to adopt WTO rules and disciplines. That is exactly to ensure all countries will getting benefit of that. That is why they try to cooperate, bring cooperation, technical cooperation, training to developing and least developed countries and low income countries to build trade capacity and in transition to adopt WTO rules and disciplines. Act as center of economic research and analysis, publish annual reports, cooperate with other international organizations such as IMF and the World Bank. This is all about the functions of WTO. This is another institutional framework which is looking after the formulations and policy formulations of trade between the different countries. To talk about that is your what are the, that is, we'll already talk about what are the non-discriminations, fair competitions, transparency, inclusions, and partnership. Social inclusions, partnership, all things comes under the principles of WTO. Both the organizations are what? Now that is, both are responsible for GATT, that is General Agreement of Trade and Tariff, the Agreement for Trade and Tariff, and WTO, both are responsible for ensuring there is no discriminations of policy and easy flow of goods between the countries and fair competition and transparency. But whereas GATT only includes goods, but WTO includes both goods and services and intellectual property. Done. This is all about the one of the institutional framework is GATT and WTO. Next, what happens? The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. What happens? It established in the year 1964. 1964, what is the least developed countries? The least developed countries believe that their benefit are more inclined toward developed nations. They said that is their opinion is exactly what, and they thought our interest is not taken into considerations. That is why they came to they have some kind of objections to WTO and GATT. So that is why the dissatisfaction among the least developed countries led to the formation of United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, where it is established in the 1964, where more than 160 members countries become the permanent organ of this United Nations General Assembly. What are the major functions? The major functions of United Nations Conference on Trade and Development: promoting international trade among developed and developing countries so as to encourage accelerate economic development. Because what was the object, the GATT and exactly the WTO, where they have left, that is the least developed countries, they have a objection to that. That is why this is came into picture, where the objective is to promote international trade and also encourage and accelerate economic development. Formulating trade policy for least developed countries for international trade and resolving problems, making proposals and policies and placing issue of LDC before the forum, putting these policies and principles into effect, negotiate trade agreements in favor of the developing nations, reviewing facilitating coordination among the member nations, other international organizations. Basically, if you see what happens, this forum is exactly established to look after the problems of least developed countries. That is why this what is that? This conference of trade and development was established. That is where they are helping, supporting the least developed countries for their policies, proposals, and at least they will listen to their voice. This is exactly we talk about the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This we talk about this is all about the last one. Then we talk about the regional and economic grouping. What happens? Even if they are apex bodies are there across the globe, the WTO, GATT, and United Nations of Trade and Development, but still the regional groups, they wanted to have their own groups among themselves. The regional countries, they wanted to have their own group to look after the economic activities, economic development. That is what lead to the development. That is what led to the rise of regional grouping, regional and economic grouping. Suppose let us talk about one group, Asian groups, they can group for a group. North American groups, they can group for a group. South American groups, they can group. We will be discussing all details in the course of time. But this is exactly beside the WTO and GATT. That is exactly the regional groups came into being. Regional and economic groups, they came into picture to look up the regional issues and regional economic problems. The reason of forming regional economic groups: promoting trade among the regional groups, promoting trade, creating employment opportunities, developing cooperation and consciousness, strengthening local economy, stable and sustainable development, scientific and technological development, common foreign and security policy. That was the major reasons for forming regional economic groups. So they will have between them the policy will be formulated, keeping in mind their regional development, regional economic growth, and trade between the different regional countries, where the factor of production can be moved from one country to another country, so that the region will be grouped altogether. But regional economic groups has become one of the competitor of WTO and GATT. Where if you are, your problems will be resolved within your circle, why should you go to the apex body to resolve your issue? That is why, but still it has its own benefits. So disadvantage of regional economic groups, diversion of trade. What happens? Instead of trading within the countries, what happens? The regional countries, they went to the other countries. That is the problem of economic grouping. Second problem is shift of employment. The objective was to create employment. Already we have talked about that. But here what happens? The shift of employment. That was what happens, because since your people are not getting the right jobs, then exactly what happens? Or you when your people are not getting, how can you give importance to the your regional partners? So that is why the shift of employment, loss of national sovereignty. These are the disadvantages of regional economic development. What are the different forms of regional grouping, economic integrations? There are different forms. What are they? That is, the first one is, what is we talk about? The first one is preferential. What is that preferential? It is preferential trade area where you talk about it is only limited to specific products. Preferential trade area, not trade, all the products will be traded. The trading will be happen only with specific products. That is in case of preferential trade area. Free trade area, that is all trade barriers will be removed. Free trade area or barriers will be removed. No specific, all trade barriers will be removed. Beside that, customs union, we talk about the economic cooperation in free trade zones. There will be no only trading, economic cooperation will be included in the customs union. Common market is exactly economically trade zones integrated. That is what the trade zones will be created and they will be integrated within the regional grouping or the economic groupings. Then we talk about monetary union. Not only the monetary activity authority will be established in case of monetary union. That is the monetary union, one financial authority or central monetary authority will be established between the countries. Then we talk about the economic unions, common economic policies. The countries having a common economic policy. Done. This is first one. You talk about the preferential trade area. What is that? A preferential trade area where only giving importance to specific products. Free trade area, no barrier will be there. That is the free flow for free trade of goods and services between the regional countries. That will happen. Customs union, we have included economic cooperation. Besides trading, economic cooperation we have included. Common market, you will have a common economically trade zones will be created. Then we talk about the monetary union where central monetary authority will be established. Economic union, common economic policies will be framed between the regional countries, so that it is that these are the different forms of regional economic integrations. So let us go by one. What are the different regional cooperation, regional groups are there? So one of the regional group is European Union. European Union, initially known as the European Community, yes, was established by the treaty in Rome 1958. The initiated by 6 original members, European countries: Belgium, France, Holland, Italy, then West Germany. These are the countries, 6 countries. They came for the what? Now the 6 original countries, they came for the European trade unions. The European trade unions' objective is to developing a common free and safe area in Europe without any borders. Borderless economy within Europe. That is exactly the all European countries can trade between them without any problems. Creating internal market for smooth and efficient trade within the European Union. Second one is objective is creating internal market for smooth. Ensuring stable and sustainable development through balanced economic growth. Stable prices by creating competitive market in the economy. Then last one is supporting and promoting scientific technological development, investment in education. These are the objectives of the European Union. European Union was formed between two six countries. The objective was to free trade between the European countries along with development, sustainable development, and supporting and promoting the technological development, investment in education. Then we talk about the second one is we talk about the CEFTA, Central European Free Trade Agreement. Central European Free Trade Agreement, CEFTA, is an agreement between countries of Visegrad group that include 21 members. 21 that includes Republic, Hungary, Poland, Republic, Slovak Republic, are signed on 21 December in 1992, which effective since 1994. What is the objective? The main objective is expanding trade in goods and services, fostering investment, following fair and stable, predictable rules, eliminating barriers to trade, providing protection of intellectual property rights in accordance with international standards. So these are those what events and that is the objective of CEFTA. CEFTA was formed in July 1994 with the objective is to ensure free expanding trade in goods and services between the countries, fostering investment, eliminating barriers to trade, and providing protection of intellectual property rights in accordance with international standards. These are the objectives of CEFTA. And these are another regional group. One of the regional group is European Union. Second regional group we are talking about Central European Free Trade Agreement, CEFTA. Then we talk about the NAFTA. NAFTA is a North American Free Trade Agreement. With whom? That is established in case of that is the 1994 Free Trade Zone for Mexico, Canada, and United States. It is one of the most important features of US-Mexico bilateral commercial relationship in the year 2008. All tariffs quota are eliminated on exports among the member nations. This is exactly we talk about the North American Free Trade Agreement. What are objective? The objective of the NAFTA is eliminating trade barriers. Then what happens now? Facilitating smooth cross-border movement of goods and services, promoting fair competitions, increasing investment opportunity among the territorial parties, providing protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights, creating procedures for implementing and implementation of formulated agreement and resolution of dispute. This is exactly we talk about the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, was established in 1994 with an objective between the countries like Mexico, Canada, and US, with the objective free flow of goods and services between their countries, how to improve investment opportunity among the member countries, then providing protection and enforcement of intellectual property rights, creating procedures for implementation and application of formulated agreements and resolution of dispute. This is the objective of NAFTA. Then we talk about the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperations. Asia-Pacific Cooperation. What is that? We talk about is the APEC. APEC was established in 1989, Pre-Eminent Economic Forum in Asia-Pacific region. That was a European region is European Union, American NAFTA is there, but as far as Asian region is concerned, Asia-Pacific region is concerned, that is Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC was established that promote economic growth, investment, and trade in Asia-Pacific regions. Where Asia-Pacific regions? The objective of APEC is exactly strengthening the regional economic integrations by removing obstacles to trade and investment, enhancing supply chain connectivity across the border. That is only limited to Asia-Pacific regions. Improving business operating environment by reducing red tape, trade barriers. No company will go here and single window. We are talking about the single window systems. Red tape, that is exactly the policy has to be changed between the countries. Helping member economics build institutional capacity to implement, take advantage of the benefit of trade and investment reforms. supporting multilateral trade, negotiating with WTO. This is all about the what? Now that is the objective of APEC. Next we talk about the South Asian Free Trade Agreement, SAFTA. South Asian Free Trade Agreement, what is that? It is SAARC members. The SAARC members, they started the SAFTA. The SAFTA in year 2004. It came into effect 2006. The main goal of SAFTA agreement was to promote sustained mutual trade and economic cooperation among the member nations. Who are the member nations? India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Maldives. These are the member nations of SAFTA. They came with that is agreement to have a trade negotiation or to promote trade among themselves. That is as far as South Asian countries are concerned. The prime objective of the SAFTA is to promoting competition in the South Asian region. Already I have talked about that. Agreement aims at bringing transparency, integrity among the member nations by reducing tariff and trade barriers. The programs institutions that ensure fulfillment of group objective are trade liberalization policies, rules of the origin, and institutional arrangement consultations. These are the some of the objective of SAFTA. Now, the SAFTA was established by whom? Not the SAARC countries. They have established SAFTA in the year 2004, which came into effect in the year 2006. The objectives are, that is, already we talk about, promote, encourage transparency among the member countries. Then we talk about the next, next framework, institutional framework is, what is the ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, established in the year 1967. 1967, what is the objective? The objective is to accelerate economic growth and promote social and cultural development in the regions. That is exactly the Asian regions, how they are economic, they will be developed, and how exchange of social and cultural can be possible, and how can you bring social and cultural development in the particular region. That is the objective of Asian regions. And Asian region is objective is to accelerate economic growth and promote social and cultural development in the specific region that we talk about, the Asian, that is Asian Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Then we talk about the BRICS. What are the developing, what is that? We talk about the developing countries, or the most developing, the most developing countries, they came into have trade agreement between them. That is, they have formed a group that is known as BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS is an economic grouping that aims at promoting peace, security, development, and cooperation among the 5 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 nations are emerging economies, developed economies or emerging economies are believed to become super economic power by 2050. That is why this BRIC has came into picture. What is the objectives? The objectives of the BRIC is the 3 objectives in the initial we talk about. Is one of to bring peace. Second one is security and development among the countries. The objective is to promoting achieving economic and regional development, building harmonious relationship among nations, removing trade barriers among member countries, optimizing use of resources, becoming dominant supplier of manufacturing goods and services and raw material till 2020. What are the features of BRICS? What are the features? Or the features of BRICS is people exchange. People can be exchanged between the BRICS countries. Economic and cooperation can be happen between the BRICS countries. and also political and security cooperations. That is the political and security cooperation. That is the three features of BRICS. Then first we talk about the BRICS is all about what? That is all emerging economies. They came together to form a group that is known as BRICS, where the countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they came. The major objective of this group, the regional grouping of the group is to bring peace, security, and development. Major objective. Besides that, the BRICS is responsible for promoting, achieving economic and regional development, removing trade barriers among member countries, optimizing use of the resources, and how they will become superpower by 2050. That is the major objective of the BRICS. Then we talk about the New Development Bank, NDB. What is that? New Development Banks. New Development Bank came into picture in 2012. The objective of NBD was to finance the BRICS associations. It will finance all 5 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It will finance all these BRICS countries. That is in the year 2016, NDB came into function with its headquarters in Shanghai, China. This is we talk about the BRICS. Then NDB, National Development Bank. Then we are talking about the OPEC, Oil Producing Country, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, was established in the year 1960, Baghdad, Iraq, among Islamic Republic of Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela as founder members of the OPEC. So they established their own grouping among the oil producing countries, all oil exporting countries, petroleum exporting countries. They form their own, that is the group. Then we talk about the Cooperation Council for Arab States of Gulf. Cooperation Council for Arab States of Gulf, GCC, is a regional organization set up 1981 with 6 member countries. The objective of the GCC is to enhance coordination and integrations. So this is, we talk about the another regional group. Then we talk about, the different what? Now we talk about the different groups in the framework, institutional frameworks who support, promote, and encourage trade between the different countries. The first one we talk about General Agreement for Trade and Tariff was established to ensure that a smooth flow of goods between the countries. And WTO, World Trade Organization, replaced GATT. The WTO includes goods, services, and intellectual property. That is the difference. Then we have talked about the different regional grouping. The regional groups, they came together, they formed their own groups, and they become a challenge for the apex bodies. Because they have their own integration, they have their own policy. That is exactly, we talk about the regional grouping. Regional grouping, we talk about European Union, we talk about NAFTA, we talk about Asia Pacific Economic APEC, and SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Agreement. Then we talk about ASEAN, BRICS. These are the some of the institutional framework as far as regional grouping is concerned. Then we are talking about when you talk about the international finance system, the apex body for managing the finance, economic or finance, talking about your international finance systems. The biggest challenge for international firms in managing finance, as these firms have to deal with different currencies of various countries, many national financial market. That is exactly how do they bring common currency. That is how do they, exactly whatever they minimize the process involved in exchange of currency or common currency, That is why international finance system was established. That is the financial institution that govern these international market. These put together form international financial systems, which constitute international assets, international banks, non-bank financial institutions, financial markets, and international monetary systems. These are that is the basic objective of what? That is the international finance systems. Then you talk about the first one is IMF. What is the International Monetary Fund? International Monetary Fund was established in 1994. Delegates from 44 countries, they came for the proposed for the International Monetary Fund, IMF. What is the objective? The objective is to bring a member nation on agree on a monetary system after the World War II. This resulted in the creation of International Monetary Fund, International Bank of Reconstruction and Development, IMF and IBRD. They provide loans on specific rates to the developing countries, to the developed countries, to other countries. They usually bring as far as finance is concerned, they bring the best financial policy. They bring how they go for the investment in developing countries, underdeveloping countries, so that there will be no economic disparities between the countries. That is why International Monetary Fund was established after the World War to have a clarity, to have a transparency as far as finance is concerned. The objective of IMF, what are the objectives? The promoting international monetary cooperations and exchange rate stability among the member nations. First one is exactly there will be monetary cooperations, international monetary exchange rate that will remain stable, not it will fluctuate every time. Because if it fluctuates, it has an impact on the domestic markets. That is why the objective is to promote international monetary cooperations and exchange rate stability among the member nations. Ensuring balance of trade. Already we talk about what is balance of trade. We talk about the balance of trade is the difference between import and exports. Your country will be in the favorable position if the export is more than the import. But meantime also you have to have a balance between export and import. So that is why the IMF is there to ensure how can have a balanced international trade. Minimizing exchange restrictions through multilateral payment systems, providing economic assistance to the member nations in order to eliminate adverse balance of payment. Already discussed all about things. That is the IMF is not only promoting international monetary cooperation, it also provides financial assistance or economic assistance to the member nations in order to eliminate adverse balance of payment. That is also the objective of IMF. Then the IMF is there to facilitate, to mobilize the monetary financial aspect and monetary aspects between the member countries in terms of facilitating promoting international monetary cooperations, also providing economic assistance to the member nations in order to eliminate the adverse balance of payment. Then you talk about your World Bank. Talk about the World Bank. World Bank was initially known as IBRD. You talk about the IBRD. Already you talk about that. Before that, you talk about what is that? Now, in case of your International Monetary Fund and IBRD, that both later came into the known as World Bank. Both came into picture. So now we are talking about the World Bank. IBRD become the World Bank, later known as World Bank. Is currently known as the World Bank Group. The mission of the World Bank Group is exactly what? Ending extreme poverty. It aims at reducing extreme poverty at global level. Objective is to reduce it to 3%. What is that objective? Poverty elimination. Reduction of poverty. How can it be possible? That is why the World Bank is promoting trade along with they are also providing economic assistance to the countries, to developing countries, so that there will be no discrimination as far as economic development is concerned. There will be no discrimination between developing countries and underdeveloped countries and developed countries. So that is why the World Bank ensure that is how all the countries will develop equally and will have a same level of development. For that reason, the objective is to reduce the poverty by 3%. Then we talk about that is the promoting shared prosperity. It aims at increasing income level of poorest people in the different nations. The objective is to increase the income of 40% of the people. What is also meantime also, it is also wanted to bring prosperity among whom? Among the member countries or developing countries or developed countries or developed countries. That is what we talk about the World Bank wanted to have. So World Bank is also providing a lot of incentives to the other countries to promote promote trade, to become powerful, superior, to become economically sufficient. That is why that is the objective of the World Bank. This is to talk about the different institutional frameworks. The institutions which are responsible, in the beginning I talk about the institutions which are responsible or established across the globe in order to ensure international business. That is, we talk about the institutional frameworks. Major complexity are political economic complexities. That is why institutional framework are established in different parts of the world. That is the discussion on institutional frameworks. So first we talk about institutional framework. We talk about the GATT. We talk about that. Then we talk about what? Now we talk about the WTO. We talk about first we talk about GATT. What is that objective? Then we talk about the WTO. GATT was replaced by WTO, World Trade Organizations. Then we talk about the WTO is exactly, it has 164 members, 90% of the world trade, who accounts for 90% of world trade, and the top decision members making meeting every 2 years. That is the WTO. WTO mission is exactly smooth free trade flow of institutional frameworks, serving safeguarding the fundamental principles for ensuring a strong multilateral trading systems. WTO functions exactly supervises, manages the implementation administrations. That exactly we talk about the GATT and WTO. Done. I think I have clarified the difference between GATT and WTO. Second, we talk about the United Nations of Conference on Trade and Development. What exactly? When the LDC, least developed countries, they objected, that is, we are being ignored because of the WTO and what is that? GATT. That is why United Nations Conference on Trade and Development came into picture. That was established to make the less developed countries powerful. That is why the less developed countries, they have made a forum that is known as United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. That is the forum to listen their problems. That is why this exactly we talk about the. It has to object function is promoting international trade, formulating trade policies, making proposals policies, negotiate trade agreement, reviewing, facilitating the trade coordination among the member organizations. Then we talk about the regional grouping. What are the different regional grouping? We talk about that, the different regional grouping, the advantage of regional grouping, disadvantage of regional grouping. Even if there is a regional grouping, but there is also disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? Disadvantages of diversions of trade, shift of employment, loss of national sovereignty. That is exactly we talk about the problems. But also there are the different forms of regional economic integrations. Preferential trade area, free trade area, already I talk about the different trade area. What is that? The difference is exactly in case of customs, only preferential, only preferred product will be taken into consideration. Free trade area, all trade barriers will be removed. customs union, economic cooperations, then common market, economically integrated market, central monetary authority in case of monetary unions, economic union, common economic policies. These are the all about the different forms of regional economic integrations. Then we talk about what are the examples. We talk about the different examples. We talk about economic union, economic trade, economic union, European Union, European Union, that is between the European countries to establish, to promote and encourage trade among the European countries, smooth and efficient trade within the European Union, to have a common policy, common framework for economic growth and stable prices by creating competitive market between the European countries. That is why European Union was established. Then you talk about the European SEPTA, that is Central European Free Trade Agreement. SEPTA is established to look after the expanding trade in goods and services, fostering investment. That is all about the SEPTA. Then we talk about the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. North American companies, Mexico, that is Canada and United States, they came together to form NAFTA for the betterment of economic, or that is the investment between the member countries. They formed NAFTA. Then we are talking about APEC. APEC is all about Asian countries, Asia specific regions. Then we talk about the SAFTA, South Asian countries, the SAARC members. Then the SAARC members. Who are the SAARC members? Already we talked about that. SAARC members: the India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Maldives. They form the SAFTA. Maldives, they form the SAFTA to promote trade among the countries, member countries. That is the SAFTA. Then we talk about Asian countries, Association of Southeast Asian nations. They formed ASEAN. Objective was to accelerate economic growth and promote social and cultural development in the region. Then BRICS. That is we talk about the emerging economies. Emerging economies like Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. They form the BRICS, where these countries, they establish, that is the regional grouping, to have a better coordination or promotion of and achieving economic and regional development and building harmonious relationship among the nations, removing trade barriers among the member countries, becoming dominant supplier of manufacturing goods and services and raw material till 2050. This is the objective of BRICS. Then we talk about the financial. One is talking about the New Development Bank, NDB, that is came into picture. The NDB is to provide financial assistance to the member countries. Then we are talking about the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Then Cooperation Council of Arab States of Gulf, that is also established. Then we are talking about the international financial systems, where we are talking about the how to have a better finance, how the countries will become financially stable. That is why the financial system came into picture. The financial system looks after improving the economic of the countries and better flow of that is trade between the countries, how to have a stable exchange rate between the countries. That is why we talk about the IMF, International Monetary Fund. Already we have talked about the objectives of International Monetary Fund. Also we talk about the World Bank. World Bank objective is to remove poverty by 3%, and the 40% people, they will prosper. At least more income, 40% people income will prosper. That is the objective of the World Bank. This is all about the institutional framework. These are the institutions who are responsible or who ensure smooth flow of goods and services between the countries. That is why they are established. Their objective we have discussed, and in detail we know what is the roles and responsibility features. This is all about the today's session. Thank you all.